that was your question about the farm visit by China.
Yeah.
You really stirred the pot, man.
Well, we had about half a dozen of these bilaterals today, and it was like a roaming, ongoing press conference with the president. He can't help himself but take questions in these things. And so, yeah, we tossed that out. There was, of course, that delegation was planning on going to a couple of states, sort of touring the U.S. farm community, and that was called off. The U.S. saying, well, that was on our call. Mnuchin said this, and Trump had sort of thrown the question to him, and he saw what happened. It left the impression that Trump wasn't, shall we say, totally aware of how that played out. Mnuchin also said that the China talks with the vice president, or vice premier, excuse me, of China are now next week. That's a surprise. That's sooner than some people would have thought. So there's been no further comment, so I don't know how much people should read into that, but we're getting these little snippets on the sidelines of what are otherwise, you would imagine, more focused bilateral talks.
What's the most important one that you expect to see happen? Because there's a lot of signals that that President Trump is not going to meet with Iranians. So
right.
If that doesn't happen, what's the most important one then?
Or necessarily the French, who are of course trying to play intermediary with the Iranians. One that just concluded was the one with South Korea's President Moon, and I think we'll be looking for any sort of readout or statements that come out of that. We asked President Moon and President Trump, listen, what about these North Korean short-range missile tests? Trump has sort of brushed them off, and we asked Moon what did he want to say about them. Well, President Trump sort of took the answer, kept talking, and then ended the event. President Moon could have piped up, I suppose, and said something, but either way, we didn't hear from him. So we don't know what South Korea thinks about all this.
Josh, President Trump made a surprise appearance today at the climate summit on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, but he didn't stick around terribly long, did he?
Yeah, it was about 14 minutes. He got there as the president of the Marshall Islands was speaking, and this is one of the countries that, of course, is on the front lines of climate change. He stayed through the end of that and through the end of the next two speeches, Narendra Modi of India and Angela Merkel of Germany, and then he was gone. So I think he wanted to sort of touch base. It was about 14 minutes or so that he was there, and then he went sort of down the hall to host his own event on religious freedom. This is, I guess, the subject that he was more keen to talk about. He, his vice president, his secretary of state gave remarks at that event and called for, more religious freedom globally, and they happen to single out countries that they have other beefs with, people like China, people like Iran, Venezuela. So that was something that he felt a lot more on sure footing at. He was asked a couple of times after, why did you show up? Why did you go to the climate change summit? This is an administration that is not, to put it lightly, put a lot of emphasis on combating climate change. And he said, I want clean air and I want clean water, and nations should work to do that together, and they should also do it on their own.